ready? Today, 95.1 FM, the voice of the people.
This is what we've waited for. The showdown. The fastest men in the world.
Hearts racing.
One light, two lights. They're backing off and backing.
Pulse rising.
Who will come out on top? Who'll take... Green light, four. He's ready to be the star.
The anticipation.
Powerful, strong. Beckham. Time, Tyson get right, all the way.
The heart stops. Catch the sports game on Sports Attack Mondays through Fridays, 7:30 a.m. and Today's Sport Live, 3 to 4 p.m. and also on the weekends, 1 to 6 p.m. Only on your premium sports radio. Today, 95.1 FM.
Let's talk football. Let's talk football.
What a devastating strike!
For
Football is a leisure game.
Sport is actually my job.
Football is boring.
That's not true. It's way more important than that.
What a wonderful goal! Fantastic strike!
As far as I'm concerned, sport is all about passion.
Sports Attack, weekdays 7:30 a.m. and Today Sports Live 3 p.m. Weekends 1 p.m. to 6 p.m.
For all you need to know in the world of sports, leave the dial on Today 95.1 FM.
Hello, my name is Kanu Wanko, aka Papilo. For the latest and trending sports stories, always listen to Today Sports Live on Today 95.1 FM Port Harcourt.
My name is Gianni Infantino, FIFA president. For the best of sports, always listen to Today Sports Live on Today 95.1 FM Port Harcourt.
Fine afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Today's Sports Live. It's the marathon edition of the show, reaching you right here from the studios of your premium talk, news and sports radio station, Today 95.1 FM. My name is Victor Oriahi, your favorite melanin sports presenter, and that song is Desire by Limo Blaze. That's how we'll be starting the show today. Promises to be really exciting as we talk football. Of course, it's a big game right there on our screens. Manchester City taking on Liverpool, and with 35 minutes gone in that match, it is 1 apiece. Yes, 1-1, the scoreline between the two sides. Man City without their big man, Erling Braut Haaland up front. But looks like even without Haaland, they've got no problems. As the World Cup winning Julian Alvarez is currently leading the lines right there in the attack. For the Liverpool team, they've got the Egyptian himself, Mo Salah, who was also on the score sheet, got the goal for them in this game. We'll be talking about this match, bringing you all the updates as it happens, as well as every other game that will be coming up later today across Europe's major leagues. We're also going to be talking about the Africa Cup of Nations. Well, on Thursday, the Confederation of African Football did release the dates for the next AFCON. And of course, it's going to be happening during the European calendar. Yet again, the talks continue how profitable is this for the individual players, the African players who ply their trade in Europe, being absent from their different respective competitions for close to or over a month. That's depending on how far you go in these different tournaments. We're going to be talking about the relegation battle in the Premier League. It is heating up as right now we've got Mo Salah with an attempt one-on-one, beats his man and slots the ball trying to find Cody Gakpo, but Gakpo just ran faster than the ball could and couldn't get control of that one. It's loaded show, like I said, and I'm not alone in the studio. I've got Queen Chikezie, the sports radio goddess, right here with me. Welcome to the show, Queen. Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon to you, Victor. Good afternoon to my colleagues right here. Good afternoon to you out there listening to us. Finally, the Premier League, the club's football is back after a week or two of non-action, and we're seeing Liverpool facing City, and it's a very intense one, Victor, and I knew it was going to be a very difficult one for City because this fixture, even though Liverpool are not doing so well in the league, when it's City, I mean, it looks like they bring back their powers or their mentality where they left it off, and they led, but City via the World Cup winning striker, what's his name now, Julian Alvarez, got an equalizer, but it is 7. You won't even believe that this is the Liverpool that are languishing and struggling, to see how they can fight their way back into top 4, that are taking City, who are currently second position, and fighting so hard to close down the gap between themselves and Arsenal. But it is what it is. When the big sides play, you definitely know that it is worth watching.
When the big sides play, it is worth watching. Uzo Chukwuduma is also in the studio. Welcome, Uzo. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon to you, Victor. Good afternoon to you, Queens, and the other guys in the studio. Yeah, it's good to be back here on Today's Sports Live, the marathon edition. And looking at our screens, Liverpool, Man City 1-1. Yesterday while on the show, someone called in and said that Manchester City is going to win by a goal to nothing. And I was like, if you've been following the game between Pep Guardiola and Klopp, you will know that it will surely be more than that. Yes, I think their first match, they had just a goal to nothing in favor of Manchester City, but Liverpool won the game. And I said, look, go check out their head-to-head. It is always more than a goal, and it is always a goal. And already in the first half, we already have 1-1, and there are still more games to come in this particular match. So we have more and more things for you, so just stay tuned.
All right, Chukwusite is also in the studio. Welcome to the show, Chuks.
Victor, good afternoon to the guys in the studio. Good afternoon, Port Harcourt City. Looking at the screen here, I think there's an issue with Man City. When there's no Haaland, there's a problem. And it's funny how we begin to complain that Haaland not being in this team is affecting the team rhythm. And before Haaland was bought, we are still complaining about the same issue. So it was sorted out. But you can see that the dynamics of Man City was not in a good rhythm. So I don't know why this game Pep has not been able to figure out that Alcaraz will not be a poacher. He will not be in the box. He will always be around the midfielders or the one he wants to drop deep and play with the ball. So I think if Man City will get anything out of this game, they have to make an Alcaraz to move further or limit his role from coming down to the midfield.
All right, to get something from this game, Julian Alvarez has got to move further in that very pitch. Well, Henry Ogugwa is also in the studio. Welcome, Henry. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Victor. Good afternoon to the guys in the studio and to our lovely listeners out there. Great to be here. Another Saturday, another weekend of football. Club football is back and another big game. Funny, as bad as they may be this season, when it comes to the big games, you just can't write them off or say that they are going to get beaten black and blue. But we just wait to see how it turns out. Goals were expected in this game, definitely. But who takes the day now? That's what matters. That's what we're waiting for.
All right, it's what we're waiting for to see who eventually takes the day. Well, as always, the show is designed to be interactive. That's why we've got our feedback platforms for you. The text and WhatsApp portal is 0701-933-9962. 0701 070-933-9962. I'll take that again, 0701-933-9962. That is the number to send in your text or your WhatsApp messages to. We're going to throw open the phone lines later on so we can get to hear from you directly on the show.
I don't come, make you not like I won't come. Because Baba baby that's I won't see that baby come. And you can't come. My story, my song. Make you not like I won't come. Because Baba baby that's
So just before we start the show, of course, during the week, we got to see some surprising things in the world of football. Thomas Tuchel becoming Bayern Munich manager, and all of a sudden, from nowhere, Julian Nagelsmann loses his job. Thomas Tuchel takes over, and right now we get to hear that the man, Mason Mount, will or might just be joining Bayern Munich pretty soon. Now, some dailies have said that a deal has already been agreed between Bayern Munich and Mason Mount. So let's talk about that one. Reuniting with Thomas Tuchel, how big will that be?
Yes, it's going to be a good one, especially when you play under a manager that, will I say, confides in you, that have this belief that you are a very good player. The coach, Thomas Tuchel, we saw Mason Mount doing very, very well in Chelsea. Especially last season, he was one of the engine room for Chelsea, despite the fact that someone like Kante was out of the season, because we already know that Kante is the machine of, let's say, the engine room of Chelsea. But it came to a point where we saw Mason Mount having that kind of energy week in, week out, not really having some level of an injury. I know the injury just started recently. So going to meet someone like Thomas Tuchel that understands how a team should play. Remember, these were the same boys when he was in Chelsea. These were the same boys that Lampard couldn't do anything with. But when he came into that particular team, he took them to carry the Champions League. And coming to a side like a Bayern Munich where you have young stars. Remember the last match they had against PSG. It came to a very point where, especially the second match, they started with their young stars, right? You saw the likes of Bellingham, right?
Yeah.
Playing very well. Like, these were those young stars they started with. It was even at the dying minute they brought in Gnabry, they brought in Mane at the forward. So this particular side is going to be a deadly side for a manager like Thomas Tuchel, because he knows very well how to use the young players. Even when they have nothing to talk about, he knows how to bring out the best in you. Under Thomas Tuchel in Chelsea, we saw how Havertz magically got himself back into Chelsea, because under Lampard, Havertz was being complained about, maybe because Lampard was not really a good coach for him. But when Thomas Tuchel came, we saw the beast in him come out. We also saw him trying to build Loftus-Cheek, even in matches that you will say Loftus-Cheek is not supposed to be needed. If you watch that second leg against Real Madrid, you saw someone like Loftus-Cheek doing very well. These are the kind of players, the kind of things that Thomas Tuchel brings to the table. If you are someone that don't even believe in yourself, he's going to help you to believe in yourself. So Thomas Tuchel calling Mason Mount is a good thing, yeah. But so many Chelsea fans will not be happy with that, because even though Mason Mount don't really know how to get more goals, he knows how to work in football. He knows how to give you that energy you need in football. He knows how to support the attack. He knows how to run. He has that energy. So Chelsea fans might not be happy, but as a player, you are supposed to go to where you are going to have peace of mind. We saw Lukaku in Belgium. We saw him scoring goals because he was happy where he was. At Chelsea, before he made that press statement, he was not really happy, right? So go to where you're going to find peace and happiness. Go to where your manager is going to believe in you. Go to where he is going to allow you to do what you want to do, and also build you for you to fit into a big team as Bayern Munich. Now, I'm even going to see Bayern Munich now as one of the major contenders for the Champions League right now. I was not really looking at them. My mindset. I was really looking at Real Madrid again coming. I was looking at a Napoli. But right now, Bayern Munich are a major contenders because we know the kind of magic that Thomas Tuchel can bring into a particular team. So it is a good thing for Mason Mount to go to Bayern Munich, for him to be used by a manager that have been using him and will be ready to use him in games to come.
All right, well, we'll talk about that much later when we go into the transfer column, as Chelsea might be needing. They say they want 70 million pounds for the man, and he's already in his final year of contract. This already is entering into his final year. Chelsea wants 70 million pounds for the man. Well, let's move on. We're going to be starting off the show talking about the Africa Cup of Nations, as the 2023 AFCON finals in Ivory Coast will run from January 13 to February 11 next year. The Confederation of African Football confirmed that on Thursday, providing another club versus country clash for top African players in Europe's elite leagues. Now, Liverpool's Mo Salah, Bayern Munich's Sadio Mane, Riyad Mahrez from Manchester City, Victor Osimhen of Napoli are some of the key players that could miss as much as 5 weeks of next season, depending on how far they get at the finals. Well, the finals in Ivory Coast were postponed from June-July this year due to concerns about the weather at that time, and will instead be played in the middle of the 2023-2024 European season. CAF has resolved to try and play the finals in the June-July period in the future, but cannot do so when it is hosted in West Africa due to heavy rains that lashed that part of the continent over those months. Well, the month-long tournament returns to the Ivory Coast for the first time since 1984, with 6 nations outside of the host having qualified so far from the 24-team competition. They are Algeria, Morocco, South Africa, defending champions Senegal, Tunisia, and Burkina Faso. 2 more rounds of qualifiers to be played in June and September, with the draw for the finals to take place shortly after the last set of games on a date that has yet to be determined. All right, Queen, the AFCON will be holding next year, January, February. Last time we had the Africa Cup of Nations, Victor Osimhen couldn't make it. And there was that back and forth with himself and Aurelio De Laurentiis as a result of his availability to the squad. We got to see a lot of players. At a point in time, Pep Guardiola was even, Jurgen Klopp rather, was even misunderstood in a way by calling the AFCON a small competition. Do you really think CAF is doing enough in helping African players with the AFCON still being held in January, February, midway through the European calendar?
Victor, the same way FIFA decided that the World Cup that is supposed to be held during the time where there is no league action is okay for us to play it between, I think that should be November, December, and then we had a time of break for the club football, and then everything was put on hold, and they went for the World Cup and came back, and then the season started again, and that's it. It's same thing. I don't see anything wrong with what the CAF is doing. My problem is that over time we have always positioned ourselves to look like we are at the mercy of the European side. Like we just have to align ourselves for it to fit into whatever their calendar is. No doubt it's all okay, but this time around, I mean, there's nothing we can do. If you look at this side, yes, we need our players to go over there. They are also making names for themselves. If they are not good enough, if they were not even good where they were playing, some of them were picked up from some of these CAF competitions. Some of them we are seeing projected during the AFCON. That was how the clubs came. Okay, maybe AFCON under 19, under 17, under 20, under 21, Chan, just like that. So if you want to say because the European club football is, it's there, up there. It's like should I say the standard at which everybody is looking at. But let's not forget that there was a time, especially in this country, where our players had to go through from our league down to over there. So it wasn't about them helping us here. It was about them coming here and spotting what they need right here and picking them up. So I think that it's just a normal thing. What happened with the FIFA World Cup is just what is happening with the CAF, and I don't see anything bad about it. If the European side, I'm going to have a problem if teams or clubs and their management refuses to let go of our players. For Victor Osimhen last time, I think I understand. He was just coming from injury and all of that. But else, I don't think they should stop anybody from representing their country, because the reason why you are performing so well at the club side level is because you want to make a name in your national team. Is because you want to, get into the squad of the national team. Imagine Lionel Messi.
Then what happens when you are now not permitted? Because the club, they reserve the right to let you through or not, don't they?
The FIFA also have the right. They don't have the right to
withhold you when they're called. Window
competition, you should be released.
All right.
So, I mean, it's a two-way thing. I think it's just for the club, and I mean, they are not the only players in that club, right? Yes, some of them might be the star men, the big boys of the team, but you cannot stop them from representing their country, because the reason why they are doing all of those things they are doing for you in the club side is because they want to lay a stake when it comes to the countryside. Imagine Lionel Messi, if he had achieved everything he had achieved in football. He would, personally, I feel like whether the World Cup came in or not, he's already up there. But winning the World Cup, you see what is turning to. He's turned around the guy's career for him in his country. They've given him in fact, not even his country, the Commonwealth gave him the baton of football. If he didn't win that World Cup, I think they also made a statue of him, placing it side by side with Pele in one of their museums. The Argentine side also changed the name of their training center to his name. Why? He's achieved a lot of things. He's won a lot of Ballon d'Ors. But all this came because he won the FIFA World Cup for Argentina. So I think the paramount for every player is the national team, and I won't even support any club holding back any player from, because you feel like Africa is a small continent, or like Jurgen Klopp said, even though he said he was misunderstood, he called Africa a small continent. But then, whether they are small or they are big, they are a continent. They reserve the right to say, this is what we want to do in our football.
The last AFCON, Odion Igalo missed because his club refused to let him go. Then they said it was because they got the notice late and all of that. But if we have situations where we have an African tournament and then some of our best legs, because obviously the best legs in Africa are in Europe. The best legs in Africa play in Europe. And we have competitions where our best legs are missing or are not a part of, or at the end of the day when they return back to their club side, it affects their other games. They might be placed on the bench because of maybe they fought to go. Do you think it's positive, or it's something that we can applaud, looking at it from the player's perspective?
And Victor, I don't get, because if an African player is going to be allowed to play in AFCON, then I come back to the marketing aspect of CAF, because we have suffered a lot in Africa. And concerning the tournament, when you talk about the World Cup, I think it's one of, and you saw how the arrangement was made, and they started giving the notice earlier than before the World Cup was played. So if the same thing will go to the African Cup of Nations, CAF has already made plans that they should align this thing. We have seen in January, we are talking about the threshold of their leagues, the cups. If you want to win tournaments or competition in top football, you have to bring this big name into your team. So it's all about how the club and the players will relate. We have seen players clash out of clubs because they are not let go to represent their national team. So it's more of marketing system. You have complained about it in Africa. Our CAF Super League, our CAF Champions League is not up to standard where you can compare with the European Champions League and the rest. It's more of our national teams not doing well in marketing system, and our tournaments, like Queen has said, it's not normal that we are not allowed to let go to represent their country, because the paramount achievement of a player is to get caps for his national team and win laurels with the national team. So it's I don't think there's a balance in African players not being let go to represent Africa, but it's also come down to CAF blaming them for this their marketing system. What's the media hype around AFCON? Why are you not trying to align with the calendar, CAF calendar? Like when I say aligning, bring it down to June. This big tournament will always come when they are done with club football. So why don't you align with June? We have many coaches have already complained. These big names will either be injured, and when they come to injury, then it's happening back to club football, the club performance. So it's back to back. There must be a balance in this national team and club football.
I think, Victor, everything still boils down to the fact that African leagues are not working, or most African players ply their trade in Europe, and that's the bane of the issue. Look, the AFCON has always been January, February, even before the exodus of African players in the mid and late 80s and early 90s down to Europe, when they started seeing Africa as a bedrock for cheap talent. I mean, you come here, you buy a talent for 500,000 and he ends up going there and playing very well, and you sell him for 30-something plus million. That's money well spent, is it not, after like 3-4 years? So, I mean, Africa is seen as a bedrock of talent, and not just talent, cheap talent. It's not compared to going to South America and paying 5, 10, 15, 20, 45 million for all those players. And the problem we've had is that the fact that a lot of our players ply their trade in Europe. A lot of people don't know, but the Asian Cup is in January, February also, although it's every 4 years, but they don't necessarily have that issues. When you have a situation whereby okay, you look at the Japanese team that went to the World Cup, there were about 8 players playing in the J League there because their league is working well. You look at Australia, the A League works well. South Korea, a lot of players are in the K League or in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia, totally home based. No player needs to leave the league because their league is working and they're being paid well. But Africa is a different ballgame. There are very few countries that have that luxury in Africa. You look at South Africa, you look at the Egyptians, you look at the Tunisians, whereby you have a huge chunk of most of the players in their national team coming from the local league. So, I mean, it makes it easier for them. But still, it's a FIFA-approved competition. So, definitely, they have to be released. The club has no right to hold. Why it seemed like there was an issue or a problem there was because of due to COVID that FIFA now came and said, okay, clubs can decide to let the player go or not. But before then, it was you must let that player go. Look, if you don't have the stomach to let your player leave in January, February, they don't sign an African player. But if you want the player, then you have to. Those are part of the sacrifices you have to make for the player. Look, as I won't skip playing in my continental competition just to please you, my club side, because that's the chance at glory. That's the shot at glory, especially when you're from certain countries. That's the shot at the silver wheel, writing your name in history for your country and for your nation. And it's a simple truth. It's their continental competition. Give it some respect. And as much as we like saying adjust it to June, July, we all know how the weather in this part of the world is. Victor, they get some ball where you go play. You know, if you, even when rain before drainage system they work for the pitch. You know, if you play ball for that rain, you cannot even see the ball. I've had the experience. Also, would have probably experienced that. There's a sort of rain that will be falling that
of course.
you cannot experience. You can't even see the ball. The ball will be so soaked. Even if the pitch is so good, the drainage system is so good, sometimes the pitch ends up still getting clogged or flooded. And that's an issue. Let's say it as this. The average rain down here in sub-Saharan Africa during that period is about 13 centimeters long. You can't compare it to what it is in Europe. When you're talking about the UK is about 2 centimeters, this thing 2 centimeters long and all that. So that tells you how heavy the rain here is. Like I was even looking at the Bendel Insurance Enyimba game. I was wondering that Enyimba's pitch has fantastic drainage because the heavy downpour was seen. Like the pitch didn't get flooded, and you could still see the players still trying as much as possible to remove the water. It was so bad. Even Chukwuemeka Obioma, when it was before he took the penalty, he had to use his hand to try and clear his face as much as possible before taking that penalty, because that will tell you how heavy that downpour was or is. And that's the problem we have here. And let's say ourselves the truth, Africa is a poor continent. Now we have issues to deal with, insecurity and poverty. And what do we need to do this? Funds. Now, if you start putting those funds, $1 billion, $2 billion to build stadiums or stadia that you see in Latin, or like you see in the US or in Mexico, in Europe, when it can be used for something more important, whereby you can just use like half of that, or you're talking about a third of that to build a stadium and put the rest towards something more meaningful to elevate or make the lives of people better. certain things take priority. And with all due respect, if I build a stadium of 1 billion, I do not have the money to maintain it. Why am I building the stadium? It's a waste of money. Money that could have been used for something better. So we just have to make do with what we have. While backward as it is, based on certain factors economically and a lot of things. So we just have to make things work with the best of the conditions we find ourselves in. Maybe when it's hosted in North Africa or in the Southern Hemisphere, in Southern Africa, you can do June, July. But once it's sub-Saharan Africa, you're talking about West and East Africa, it has to be the January.
Isn't that a problem? Because CAF is saying when the competition, just like Henry stated, when it's hosted in West Africa or Sub-Saharan Africa, then the competition will take place in January or February. But when it's hosted in North Africa or South Africa, it will take place in June or July. The fact that there's the inconsistency with even the date, with when these tournaments will be holding. Now it's dependent on the host of the AFCON. Isn't that a problem in a way?
Well, in as much as we are going to agree that it is a problem, but CAF can work in a certain way as to not make it a problem for club sides, especially where we have some of the big names playing in Europe, right? Because we really need to look at certain things before we go into any competition. Like as Henry have said, that when it comes to Western Africa, you have some level of downpour, which is very, very strong. For instance, I've been on football pitches, and whenever the rain comes, even though you have a very good drainage system, you start seeing the pitches becoming too muddy, and you can't just play. No matter how hard you try, you might even survive if maybe it's a synthetic field and then you can see yourself playing very well in football. But when it comes to the normal grass, it is always that bad. Because if you look at the downpour over there in Europe, it is not as much as it is here. It is times 14, 15 times more than what you're seeing there. So what you are not seeing there is just showering. But here, it falls down heavily. So I feel that CAF have already known that this is kind of weather we have when we host competitions in West Africa and when we host in North Africa. So I feel that they should come together to always, whenever they know where they are sending where they're going to host this competition, be it North, West Africa or East Africa, they should also inform the club sites already before time. If you know that okay, it is going to be held in Egypt, inform the club sites already whether the competition in Europe is on or not. They should be aware, because if prior before time that this is the reason why we are going to be hosting this competition in this particular time, and also tell them before time. It comes every 2 years, right? So immediately you finish this particular competition, the next thing you should do is to work out the next country that is going to hold the next competition and inform the club side before that time. In 2 years' time, they should be aware.
I don't understand.
2 years is interval. I think that's a bad issue. We're talking about planning. We are listening before the Qatar hosted the World Cup. You knew that over 4 years, Qatar will be the host of the World Cup, and they had the plan already set out. So you're talking about 2 years interval. That is short. It's too short for a club to begin to take preparation.
No.
So
it's even too long. See, let me tell you, the moment we're giving them priority. That's not how it's supposed to be.
No priority. It's responsibility. I take control of my players. My player play in week in, week out. I go for the titles. I give them their salary bonuses. I pay them almost every week. So why I give you the rules? I give you the rules.
Really? You give the rules?
Yes, I give you the rules.
And the club's going to dictate for FIFA what to do?
I think it's us belittling ourselves. Maybe because of the whole race factor, or maybe we started seeing ourselves as
inferior to the European,
as inferior a small continent based on factors or a lot of things that aren't the average or everyday Africans' fault. But I think you doing that is like you losing all form or sort of self-respect or whatever little self-respect.
There's nothing like losing self-respect.
No, please, because I still remember one thing. When the Copa America Centenario was held, we had the Copa America in 2015, and it was after that 2015 Copa America that they announced that the Centenario will hold a year later during the summer. As much as it's during the summer, clubs still frown out their players playing a lot of games when they should be resting or when they should have resumed for pre-season, and they feel it affects them when the season goes on later on. They also complain about this. We also saw about De Laurentiis complaining about South American competitions, but we just highlighted Africa because of war in Africa, and that's where he was hitting the hammer on the nail so much because of the fact it's an African competition. The fact that Europe frowns at every other continental competition, and it's just the simple truth. Every other competition found in any other.
2-0. Manchester City lead Liverpool as 2-1 rather. Kevin De Bruyne with a sweet counter-attack at the end of it. Brilliant work from this Manchester City team. And 3 minutes after the restart of the second half, or 2 minutes after the restart of the second half, it is Liverpool now trailing at the Etihad 2-1. KDB with the second goal for the citizens.
So the truth is that once you release your host, I mean, we knew that Ivory Coast, that was Cameroon hosted the last AFCON. We knew that after, I think that was very smart play. And we knew that Ivory Coast and Guinea were to host the next AFCONs. Guinea has been stripped because of Guinea will not be able to meet up in time and with the political issues that are in Guinea. But now, Ivory Coast are hosting. Definitely, as we've confirmed, Ivory Coast are hosting. After we're done with Cameroon, the dates will be released for Ivory Coast, and the period or the months for Guinea will also be released. Subsequently, after the Ivory Coast AFCON, we now release the dates for when it will be in. But the months will already be known and approved and agreed. So that's all. That's all we owe them. Once we do or release our tentative months, then we have done our job. Then it's not between that month. It's not between January, February. We now set the date like we've seen 13th, 11th. Just that I felt it should have come earlier. That's just the simple truth. The dates of 13th to 11th should have been known earlier, but the months definitely should be known immediately. Those rights are being given, but from which point to which point in those months it holds, that can be done later after the previous AFCON has been hosted. But there is no way we'll have an AFCON in Sub-Saharan Africa and West Africa that it won't be June, July. And that's what I'm saying. If you award Egypt, let's say Egypt was hosting this next one, say it's June, July. I don't need to release the dates and tell you, but I've told you it's June, July. So just prepare that June, July, your players will be on the continent playing football. If it's in Ivory Coast, it's January, February. Just know January, February, your players are going to be on our continent playing football. We'll release the time frame or the dates in subsequent periods or subsequent press release. Simple, but it should be done earlier.
It's too easy.
It's like us losing every atom or every little form of little respect we have if we just let them control how we run our continental competitions.
And then to add to what you're saying, the moment a club wants to sign a player, they don't just come to sign you because, they want to sign you or a good player. No. There are a lot of analysis done. They consider a lot of things. And one of those things is your country, how they go about the football in that continent and all of that. So you can't tell me that this club does not know that signing an African player means that maybe once in 2 years, once in 3 years, once in 4 years, they will have to leave for their continental competitions as approved by FIFA. So we don't have to CAF. If you tell me the countries involved, if you tell me like Nigeria will have to, probably inform, let's say Napoli, for instance, ahead of time that we'll be needing the services of Victor Osimhen at so time. I can lead to understand. But telling me that CAF will have to write to European clubs that their players. No, now you considered all of those things. You knew this guy was an African. You knew in January, February, or June, July, because like we've seen, we cannot be static. We've seen FIFA change their dates because of the region involved in the hosting of the World Cup. That was why they moved it to November, December for Qatar. If they are going to go somewhere else, they are going to come back to probably June, July, or sometime another time that will be favorable, not just for them, because all of these things are because of the players who are going to be involved in those games. So you cannot tell me that CAF should start writing to club sides. No, now, because they are in Europe. How many times do they write to other clubs in Africa when they want to do their own competitions? So for me, I think, like Henry has said, it is us losing every form of self-worth that we ever had. Once we go that line, Victor, trust me, we won't even have our big players coming for our competitions, because the clubs will capitalize on that and make it their right. When you write to them, they will reply and tell you no, they're not going to release these players. Bro, if you don't want an African player to leave your team, then stop signing African players. It's as simple as that.
All right. Well, let's not overflow the issue. We'll be moving on now. Remember, you can be a part of the conversation by leaving us a message via text or WhatsApp to the number 0701 933 9962 0701 933 9962. Man City up against Liverpool. It is still 2-1, but it could be 3 as Alisson Becker is forced into a save. Ilkay Gundogan started the run and tried to finish it with Jack Grealish's pass, but there was no power in the shot. It did look like a pass. At the same time, it felt like a shot. But then these two teams are up against the other. Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola. They've both created two incredible teams. And at the start of the season, City being the preseason favourites to win the league in each of their past 6 campaigns. But right now, it looks like their belief in the fundamental nature might just be a little bit shaken. Liverpool finished 1 point behind City last season, and preseason betting market projected them to finish 4 points back in 2022-2023. They are pushing beyond City this season. Liverpool pushing beyond City this season wouldn't have shocked anyone, because we had seen it happen once in 2019-2020 when Jurgen Klopp and co finished 18 points clear of Pep Guardiola's side. That, of course, is not what happened, although they have a game in hand. City are 8 points back off Arsenal, who haven't finished higher than 5th since Guardiola and Klopp's first full seasons in England. Now, Liverpool, meanwhile, are currently in 6th and are averaging only the 7th most points per game. They are 7 points back of 4th place. They are 19 behind City. They are 27 off the top. Now, before the season, it seemed as if this game at the Etihad will be the biggest of the Premier League season. The final game between the two teams is expected to battle it out once again for first place. Now, it's a massive match, only that for City, it's a massive match in terms of their chances of keeping hopes of climbing back, keeping pace with Arsenal, while for Liverpool, hopes of climbing back into Champions League spots, and it is 3-1. Manchester City are tearing Liverpool apart this second 45 minutes. Ilkay Gundogan finally gets his goal, and of course Pep Guardiola did love that one. It looks like City have just, Liverpool rather, have shut down at the defense line this second 45 minutes. The first half, they didn't play their best football, but we did see them string up a couple of good moments. But this second 45 minutes, it's been all City all the way.
Yeah, it's a wonderful one, but I think I see, in the first half, Liverpool have been attacking minded. Also, the Man City team. When I looked at the analysis from those that analyzed that particular match, you saw that the defense line of Man City was being porous in the first half, and maybe they are also forward-minded. But I think what they are trying to do now is also minding their defense and coming with counter-attacks, because they were just passing the balls. I was talking with City when the match was going on. We just discovered that Manchester City were just passing and allowing Liverpool to do the counter-attack. But right now, what I see now is them trying to also do the counter-attack here. And a wonderful one from Alvarez there, because he was the one that actually, brought the ball to the point before Gundogan had the ball into the back of the net, because when the ball was given to him, he wanted to take a shot and he dribbled past the first person, and when he took that shot, it was obstructed by a Liverpool player before Gundogan came and put the ball at the back of the net. So I don't feel that Liverpool are trailing right now, but this is the match we always seen. Man City, Liverpool always have more goals, so it won't stop here. It will be either Manchester City scoring more or Liverpool scoring more.
Man City scores more or Liverpool will do just that. Now, Henry, you talk about Man City without Erling Braut Haaland. It looks like no Haaland, no problem.
Look, City. The funny thing is that Haaland has about 40 goals this season. But the funny thing is that City had scored more goals by this stage of this season, last season, than they have now. Look, they're a side that will play with or without any player. I think the player that's not in City and will always shout or complain about is Kevin De Bruyne when he's not playing. And that's the simple truth, because we know what the man brings to this City side, how influential and how important he is to how they want to play or how they play. I think they were always going to cope without Haaland, is the truth. Yes, he has paraded and scored a lot of goals, but I mean, there are still games where he didn't score and somebody else in the team had to step up, and he's done just that. City are a well-oiled machine or you team, although this season it hasn't really been the best for them, but I just felt irrespective of the fact Haaland was there, they are still and will still be the favourites going into this game, and they are not proving us wrong.
All right. The favourites. Now, at the start of the season, we thought that this game, this second leg, will probably be the match that crowns the Premier League champions because of the rivalry between the two teams. Do you think they have both fallen short of expectations in this very campaign?
No, I don't think so. I think big games are always big games. Rivalry are always rivalries. When you talk about El Clasico, even though the Barca is 10 points far from Madrid is at 15 points away from Barca, these games will not fall any short because of the glamour is already in there, the players are involved already there, so it's more of it's a big game already. It's talking about them falling short. I think the only thing that we're looking at their position right now, I'm crying or feeling sad because it's at Liverpool at this point last season they're either in the top 4, and this kind of position with them losing currently now, it's like they're having more problems in going to finish in the Champions League spot. So Man City and Arsenal are giving us one of the most dramatic seasons in the Premier League for about five seasons before Pep came in. So it's a balanced game. The games will always be a big game, no matter where the club are positioned at the moment.
All right, so is Manchester City versus Liverpool now a big fixture, or is it a big fixture solely because of the coaches?
Yeah, I think that is it. That is what it is. I mean, before now, we've seen, aside this period when these two coaches have, turned these clubs around and their performances. I think before now, you won't place Liverpool in the same perimeter or in the same bracket with Manchester City. Manchester City were a side that were originally struggling before the takeover and then the incoming of Pep Guardiola. That's when we began to hear about Manchester City. So I will not even say they are rivals. I think all of this is as a result of the men at the helm of affairs, the men who are, handling this side and their approach to football. So that's why we've been able to see, and what they have done so far within this time that they've been in charge of these clubs. You look at City and Liverpool, it's just like how will I put it now? You can't equate it to Manchester United versus Liverpool anytime, any day. You cannot equate it to Manchester United or even Arsenal. You cannot. It's just that the teams or the coaches involved have made this game look so interesting and.
That's a penalty.
Penalty. That's too soft. Penalty. That's too soft.
All right. Player brought down in the box, but the referee, like Chukwuzite, believes that wasn't penalty worthy. As Man City go on yet another attack, and it's Jack Grealish again. He goes for a brilliant one, and it requires Alisson to pull off a save that was going into the bottom left corner. With Julian Alvarez has been everywhere in this very game, but fine one by Grealish. He certainly was going in if Alisson had not gotten a hand to that one. Well, let's take a look at the replay again. No, not a penalty.
No, that's not a penalty. I mean,
referee spot on with that decision.
That's so childish.
First of all, removed his leg
and then back.
I can get the penalty. No,
I can't get.
Wait, why are they come on my leg?
Why are they come on his leg?
I'm in the box. If he falls me down, it's a penalty.
I'm telling you.
It is still 3-1, no penalty given, and Manchester City still lead Liverpool. Mo Salah, from nowhere, they're like 6 new bodies again. I was not saying counter attack.
That's what I was saying.
Finish it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Because right now, Man City are trying as much as possible to mind their defense. If you watch the first half, it was just 3 guys against over 4 Liverpool players, right? But right now, if Salah hold it, just look at their defense line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players already. So they are really minding their defense right now. So that is why the Liverpool team are finding it very, very difficult to penetrate into that defense line of Manchester City.
Yeah, you forced the club for his selection. Yeah. Why starting and have Elliot? Talk about the experience. Talk about the man management and midfield. Yes.
Was he just one player?
It's talking about when we are talking about engine room of a club or engine room of a game. You talk about the midfield. If the midfield is cut out of a game, you know why Liverpool the first goal they scored, they bypassed the midfield and threw the long ball to Jota, and that had the first goal came. They started to lock shop of creativity midfield in Liverpool has fallen short. So it's the Jurgen Klopp selection. I think I'll vote him for starting a